Hare Krishna. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, chapter 20, verse 24 to 23, or 23 and 24 to 26. Okay, so the main verse is 24 to 26. So I'll just read 23, verse 23, and then when we get to 24 and 26, we can do the word for word and pronunciations, etc. Shukadev Goswami said, when Maharaj Dushmanta passed away from this earth, his son became the emperor of the world, the proprietor of the 7 islands. He is referred to as a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this world. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 41, it is said, Yad yad vibhuti mad sadvam Shrimad urjitam eva va Tad eva gachatvam Mama tejo nrisha sambhavam. Anyone extraordinarily powerful must be considered a powerful representation of the opulence of the Supreme Godhead. Therefore, when the son of Maharaj Dushmanta became the emperor of the entire world, he was celebrated in this way. Translation. Maharaj Bharat, the son of Dushmanta, had the mark of Lord Krishna's disc on his right hand, and he had the mark of a lotus hole on the soles of his feet. By worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a grand ritualistic ceremony, he became the emperor and master of the entire world. Then under the priesthood of Mametya, Bhrigu Muni, he performed 55 horse sacrifices on the bank of the Ganges, beginning from its mouth and ending at its source, and 78 horse sacrifices on the bank of the Yamuna, established from the confluence at Prayag and ending at the source. He established the sacrificial fire on an excellent site, and he distributed great wealth to the Brahmanas. Indeed, he distributed so many cows that each of thousands of Brahmanas had 1 badva, 13,084 as his share. Purport. As indicated here by the words Doshmanter Agni Sachi Guna Chitaha, Bharat, the son of Maharaj Dushmant, arranged for many ritualistic ceremonies all over the world, especially all over India on the banks of the Ganges and Yamuna, from the mouth to the source. And all such sacrifices were performed in a very distinguished place. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Yagnartat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work binds one to this material world. Everyone should engage in the performance of yajna, and the sacrificial fire should be ignited everywhere. The entire purpose being to make people happy, prosperous, and progressive in spiritual life. Of course, these things were possible before the beginning of Kali Yuga, because there were qualified Brahmanas who could perform such yajna. For the present, however, the Brahma Vivarta Purana enjoins Ashvamedham Gavalambham Sanyasam Palapatrikam Devarena Sutotpatim Kolo Pancha Vivarjayed. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden: offering a house in sacrifice, offering a cow in sacrifice, accepting the order of sannyas, offering oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and begetting children in the wife of one's brother. In this age, such yajnas as the Ashvamedha Yajna and Gomamedha Yajna are impossible to perform because there are neither sufficient riches nor qualified Brahmanas. This verse says, Mama Teyam Purodhaya. Maharaj Bharat engaged the son of Mamata Bhrigu Muni to take charge of performing this yajna. Now, however, such Brahmanas are impossible to find. Therefore, the Shastras recommend Yagnaya Sankirtan Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumedasha. Those who are intelligent should perform the Sankirtan Yajna inaugurated by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Varnam Tvija Krishnam Sango Pangatra Parsadam Yagnaya Sankirtan Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumedashaha. In this age of Kali, people endowed with sufficient intelligence will worship the Lord, who is accompanied by his associates, by performance of Sankirtan Yagya. Yagya must be performed, for otherwise people will be entangled in sinful activities and will suffer immensely. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement has taken charge of introducing the chanting of Hare Krishna all over the world. This Hare Krishna movement is also Yagya, but without the difficulties involved in securing paraphernalia and qualified brahmanas. This congregational chanting can be performed anywhere and everywhere. If some people, how or other, assemble together and are induced to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, all the purposes of Yaga will be fulfilled. The first purpose is that there must be sufficient rain, for without rain there cannot be any produce. Anad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anasambhavaha. All our necessities can be produced simply by rainfall. Kamam varvasha parjanaya, and the earth is the original source of all necessities. Sarva kama duga mahi. In conclusion, therefore, in this age of Kali, people all over the world should refrain from the four principles of sinful life: illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and in a pure state of existence should perform the simple yagya of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Then the earth will certainly produce all the necessities for life, and people will be happy economically, politically, socially, religiously, and culturally. Everything will be in proper order. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we just read how Maharaj Dushmanta, he did a very elaborate sacrifice many ages ago. So Yagya is a very, if you read, sorry, excuse me, my alarm's going off, excuse me. Let's turn my phone off. That's a bit embarrassing. Okay. So Yagya was a very prominent principle of everyday life in Vedic society. It was like a festival. So the kings, because they were guided by the Brahmanas, they would kind of they would ask their population, the people that were under them, to pay tax. Tax doesn't mean money. They would ask for people for food products, grains, ghee, gold, jewelry, cloth. And that would be offered in the sacrifice. And the remnants of that sacrifice would be distributed accordingly to people of different positions: the sannyasis, the brahmanas, grahastas, the shudras. With the shudras, they'd generally get, for example, they'd get worn clothes by the other members of society, and those clothes would be in good condition. So, so like we see here that the brahmanas were given so many cows. I mean, it's quite inconceivable to even think about how many cows they were given and how they would maintain it. But in previous ages, such facility existed. So, Hare Krishna.
The calculation of the number in the verse: 26 million cows.
26 million cows.
Just 2,000 brahmins. 26 million.
Wow, it's inconceivable. Yeah. So, how much land is needed just for one cow, or to speak of 26 million cows? Yeah. So you know, so anyway, so it's you know, it's considered that if someone has many cows, he's considered to be a very rich person because he has so much ghee, has so much milk, which you can make so many food products. So obviously, in today's society, no one knows about yagya, because for them it's like if you describe it to them, it's quite a you can say a very primitive, a very backward practice. I mean, why would you worship God? Why would you worship Him? You know, first of all, they don't even believe in God. Most general society. Why would you worship Him? Why not just you do something artificially to the land, and then grow crops. Now today they kind of they do all sorts of artificial things. They do genetic modification to the food so you get more of it. And there's something called I don't know so well called Monsanto in America, which is quite controversial. All these artificial things, and the effects of it is it has psychological and physical effects on the people who are eating it. So it's not pure. It's not coming from a good source. So so basically, we see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, in third chapter, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna in the Karma Yoga chapter, he talks about yagya. He introduces it to Arjuna. And he says that if you don't perform yagya, then, what you're doing will bind you. So it's very interesting the way he's describing it. So generally in India, if you think of yagya, if anyone says yagya to anyone in India, they'll say, well, yagya means fire sacrifice. Before I came, my understanding of yagya was some sort of sacrifice. But Krishna is saying, your work is also sacrifice. So it's like there's one group, very prominent group in North India, and they don't accept the Smriti scripture. They don't accept Bhagavad Gita. They don't accept Puranas. They accept Shruti scripture. They predominantly accept the four Samhitas, the Rig, the Yajur, the Atharva, etc. And their whole thing is just doing fire sacrifices. They believe by fire sacrifice one can achieve perfection. Obviously, they are Mayavadis, and they don't believe in Krishna coming down. They don't believe in incarnations, but that's their thing, fire sacrifice. And sometimes people say, why do you have this yagya at the end of Sankirtan? It's like Sankirtan is not yagya. Sankirtan is just chanting. It's not actually a sacrifice. But the understanding behind yagya is to offer our respects, our worship, our gratitude, our acknowledgement to God for giving us all the things we need to survive in this world. Rain, from which food products and grains grow, and it makes the earth, appropriate for grains to grow, etc. So, it's interesting. Srila Prabhupada makes it very clear in Bhagavad Gita that yagya means Vishnu. Even in the Vishnu Sahasranam, it's a very famous Vedic mantra. In it, basically, Krishna or Vishnu is described as Yagya Bhog, Yageshwar, Yagyapati. So it's very clear that the goal of the sacrifice is Yagya, is Krishna, is Vishnu. So one devotee, he was in Malaysia and he met this lawyer. She was a very famous lawyer. And they were discussing about the word Yagya. And they said, because she had many Bhagavad Gitas from different people, including Srila Prabhupada's. And she said, why does Srila Prabhupada translate Yagya as Vishnu? Yagya is not Vishnu. So the devotee explained why it is. So then she said, let me just check the commentary of Shankaracharya. And in India, Shankaracharya is, not even just in India, around with academics everywhere, Shankaracharya is very, very prominent. He's considered to be an authority on Vedic philosophy. Obviously, we know he's a covering incarnation of Lord Shiva who taught Mayavad philosophy to bring people back to the Vedic conclusion from Buddhism. So when she checked the translation, she noticed that even Shankaracharya has translated Yagya as Lord Vishnu. So then when she saw that, she accepted it. And she had, it's explained, she had many Bhagavad Gita. She had 11. So basically that means she didn't really understand Bhagavad Gita. She was going through all these Bhagavad Gitas getting confused. So basically, if So it's, it's generally when we read, if we look in the Vedas, there's many references to different personalities and doing sacrifice for them. There's a sacrifice for Indra, there's a sacrifice for Varuna, all these different personalities. So the understanding is we're worshipping the demigods, but one thing we have to understand is when a demigod name is mentioned in the Vedas, it's actually a position. Indra, Varuna, these are all positions that Krishna fills. They're not. These personalities are not eternal. I.e., it's just a position. Like in a company, you'll have a secretary, you'll have a manager, you'll have a cleaner. These are all different positions. So all these demigods, when it's mentioned in the Vedas, are just positions. And originally, Krishna is the original personality of all of them. So in Madhurya Kandamani, it's described that if there's not a qualified Indra, then Krishna will take that role and he will come into the earth. And in previous ages, Lord Brahma, when he wasn't qualified, then Krishna took that role. And same for Lord Shiva. So it's these positions, these roles, these names, they're just roles. They're not like personalities. And ultimately, when you worship them, you're really worshipping Krishna. So the understanding is Krishna is the goal. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Vedascha sarver aham eva vedyo. Vedanta krid veda ved eva chaham. I am the goal of the Vedas. I am the compiler of Vedanta. So he is the goal of the Vedas. So generally when people do yajna, especially materialistic people, because there is concession for that. People do it for good harvest. They do it for this, and sometimes it's described that if there is no good harvest, if you don't do yajna, then what happens is the weather system is disrupted, and we see in Krishna Lila when Krishna told his father Nanda Maharaj, don't do sacrifice to Indra. So what happened? He flooded Vrindavan. So what it means is, it's not that no rain comes. It means the weather pattern is irregular. It can either be excessive rain or less rain, or excessive heat or no heat. It's not that nothing comes. Something does come, but it's extremely excessive. Weather conditions, there's drought, there's so many things. So by performing yajna correctly, according to scripture, according to Guru Sadhu Shastra, because these three elements, Guru Sadhu Shastra, represent the authority of Krishna, so we know what Krishna wants, then we can do the yajna with the right mood, with the right consciousness, and the right focus, so we won't be misled. So Srila Prabhupada talks a lot about in his books about there's no qualified brahmanas in Kali Yuga. So generally these sacrifices, what Srila Prabhupada, that are described in the Vedas and Bhagavatam, they're referring to Vedic brahmanas. Vedic brahmanas are brahmanas who basically come from pure lineages, who lived many years ago. For example, they would go to Gurukul, they would go through all the training, they would learn all the mantras, they would learn the Vedas by heart, and they were extremely meticulous in their attention to Vedic practices. So they had long lives, they had sharp intelligence. It's explained when they would be learning the Vedic mantras, the Guru would teach them 6 mantras at the same time, so they'd be learning it. How do you learn 6 things at the same time? It's difficult to conceive of. So that's what they used to do. So these brahmanas, then Prabhupada explained they're not in this age because no one performs purificatory activities, the Garbhadan samskar, the different samskars, there's 10 samskars. No one performs that perfectly. And you can't perform it perfectly because we just don't have the intelligence to do that. So then one can say, well, why does Prabhupada always talking about, because the statements where Prabhupada says, well, there's a statement where Prabhupada says, we're creating brahmanas. So he just said, okay, you can't create a brahmana, so what are you referring to? So Prabhupada referring to the Pancharatrika brahmanas, according to the rules of Pancharatrika. So Pancha means 5, and Ratri means night. So basically when Lord Brahma, in his sleep, the Vedas were stolen by Madhu and I believe it was Ketaba. So then, Vishnu appeared and he killed the demons. So then he said to Vishnu, please teach me the essence of the Vedas so I can quickly understand it. So then what happened, so he spoke over 5 nights. So that's why it's called Pancharatrika Vidhi. And Pancharatrika is you could say, is the essential principles, practices of the Vedic philosophy for which people can practice. So our process, our deity worship, our initiation is based on the rules of Pancharatrika. And there's many other famous Pancharatrika scriptures based on Pancharatra. There's Narada Pancharatra, which we are aware of, and Hari Bhakti Vilas. And Hari Bhakti Vilas was, I believe it was compiled 500 years ago by Sanatana Goswami. So he compiled it 500 years ago. And it's interesting that Srila Prabhupada once said about Hari Bhakti Vilas, he said, if you were to follow it, everything in Hari Bhakti Vilas, you wouldn't be able to get out the bathroom in the morning. So that's quite a heavy statement. So that means we can't even follow all the principles of Hari Bhakti Vilas because it's just not possible, it's not practical. And there's 64 items of devotional service, and Prabhupada said the most 5 essential are chanting Hare Krishna, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, living in the Dham, and worshipping the deity. By these 5, one can achieve perfection. And even the other some of them are quite difficult, but Prabhupada just kind of said, okay, just concentrate on these 5. We find some people, when you go to South India, you'll see many Paka Brahmanas who are very Paka in their practices, the way they live. There's villages in India where they speak Sanskrit. But none of them are performing everything in Vedic philosophy perfectly. There's a story when the South Indian Brahmana, he had Prabhupada give a class, and Prabhupada was chanting Sanskrit. See, at the end, he went up to Prabhupada and said, why do you chant Sanskrit with a Bengali accent? Because Prabhupada was Bengali. So Prabhupada replied, it's because I'm a Bengali, because he's Bengali, so obviously he's going to speak with a Bengali accent. So, that's Srila Prabhupada, so, what to speak of us? So we can't follow everything in the Vedas properly. We can't even follow what's in the Pancharatrika properly. So, Jiva Goswami, he explains in the Sandarbhas, he says that, because we have the 9 limbs of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, there's nine limbs there. But the thing that gives power to all of them, potency to all of them, is the holy name. Because we can't do deity worship perfectly. It's a fact. Prabhupada said, I kept the deity worship very simple, so it would not distract people from the Yuga Dharma, which is chanting of Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada introduced a very simple worship, but a very effective worship of deity worship. And because the focus is not deity worship, though that also helps us to become pure, regulated and focused in our practices and assists us on the path of bhakti. So by chanting Hare Krishna, that gives us the power to be able to do all the other things. It's like when Prabhupada installed Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ji ki jai. So when Srila Prabhupada, he installed Krishna Balaram, he invited the local Brahmanas to install. But Prabhupada said, from what I heard, that they were already installed by the chanting of Hare Krishna. One Pandit said to him that you can actually even get someone, you can install a deity by chanting Hare Krishna. You can even get someone married by chanting Hare Krishna, because that's how powerful the mantra is. It's coming from the spiritual world. Goloka Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. So it's an eternal, it's the most esoteric, most powerful mantra. It is the Maha Mantra of all Maha Mantras. Because in the Vedas there's other mantras which are described as Maha Mantras. The Maha Mantra is the most powerful. So it gives potency, it gives effect to all our other devotional activities. Generally before we, when I first practiced Krishna consciousness, I was always told before you read, you should always chant 1 round. You should always get your rounds in the morning before you do some sort of devotional activity or some sort of preaching, because it enlivens us. And without chanting, it doesn't give potency to what we're doing. Pancharatrika and Bhagavad Gita are like, you could say, are like 2 tracks. Prabhupada gives an example of 2 tracks. 1 track is Pancharatrika, 1 track is Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is the goal that we're all seeking. So Krishna describes Bhagavad Vidya in Bhagavad Gita as Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. He says is the king of knowledge, the king of secrets. But we can't practice that. It's not easy to practice. We can't artificially go to that. We have to go step by step using Pancharatrika Vidya to assist us on that path. So Prabhupada says it's like a train track. One track is Pancharatrika Vidya, one track is Bhagavad Vidya. And the Vedic mark doesn't even come into it, what the Vedic Brahmins used to follow, because we can't practice that in this day and age, so it doesn't apply to us. So Prabhupada also explains in the purport, he talks about the 5 things that are forbidden in Kali Yuga. He talks about offering cows in sacrifice, offering horse, sannyas, offering oblations to the forefathers, offering oblations with meat to the forefathers, and begetting children through the husband's younger brother. These 5 items are forbidden. I've seen quite a few examples in Indian families where, if a man's married to a woman and they have a child, and the man dies, generally the custom is that that man's younger brother will marry that woman, because the idea is to keep that person within the family, especially because they don't want her to go to another family, and it's very prominent. I know many Sikh families do it as well. So it's just a very exclusive Indian cultural thing. But Srila Prabhupada is explaining that it's forbidden. Also, offering cows, offering horses in sacrifice. So the Brahmanas in previous ages, they would do such sacrifices, but they were able to rejuvenate those cows with new bodies. So they were younger and more powerful. They wouldn't just kill them, because that's the meaning of Vedic Brahman. They were so powerful they could do that. They weren't limited in their potency. So that's why Lord Buddha came 2,000 years ago, when he came to stop the ritualistic Brahmanas who were sacrificing so many animals. And they were sacrificed, but they weren't rejuvenating. So Lord Buddha came and said, okay, don't follow the Vedas. He preached, don't follow the Vedas, practice ahimsa. Because they weren't qualified to do these practices. And there was such a bloodshed. And so many animals sacrificed. And even in somewhere in north of India, there's a place where they sacrifice thousands of animals. And it's really barbaric the way they do it. But, it's been banned now. But they believe by doing this, you'll get some sort of spiritual benefit. And, a few months ago I was explaining that there's a temple I believe it's in Bengal or Calcutta, I'm not too sure. It's a Kali temple. And, they used to do human sacrifices. Obviously, for human sacrifices, as we know, because when we found, last time I spoke, we were informed that there is no such human sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas, but still people concoct their own sacrifices. In some parts of India, like because there's a lot of people in India who eat meat. So if someone dies in the family, they'll fast for meat for 13 days, and then on the last day they'll sacrifice a goat, and they'll share the meat of that goat to all their family. It's like prasad for them, but it's completely unauthorized. It's completely bogus. Because it's explained in I'm not sure what scripture it is, but it's explained that before you sacrifice a goat, you're meant to chant a mantra, and the mantra basically says, "Now I'm killing you, next life you'll kill me." So it's like a vicious cycle. You're just going to suffer for that. So interesting thing about when Prabhupada says sannyas is forbidden in Kali Yuga, but when we look at our parampara, there's many sannyasis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a sannyasi, Madhvacharya. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj inaugurated the sannyas. Srila Prabhupada gave sannyas. So why is this injunction there? So it's important to understand that Prabhupada is because this verse is from Brahma-Vaivarta Purana. It's not referring to Vaishnava sannyasis. It's referring to sannyasis who follow karma kanda, karma sannyas. There's 3 types of sannyasis, explained. There's Veda sannyas, who are the Vaishnava sannyasis. There is the Jnana sannyas, who are the impersonalists. Generally, Mayavadis follow that. And the third one is karma sannyas, who just follow karma kanda principles, or who a normal person who's not had any spiritual training, who just takes it because he's retired from family life. But this is forbidden. You can't do that, because you'll end up falling down. And when you go to India, you see such things. People take sannyas and they're begging, but on the side they're making money. They're taking intoxicants, they're doing all sorts of things. So what's the point of taking that type of sannyas? So this is the sannyas it's referring to, karma sannyas, and that's forbidden in Kali Yuga. So, even going back to animal sacrifice, there's a conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jankazi, and Jankazi talks about, there's cow sacrifice even in your scriptures. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu organized a civil disobedience, what was the first civil disobedience movement in India, and he took thousands of his devotees to Jankazi's house to basically challenge Jankazi on his behavior of disrupting the Sankirtan movement. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, cow sacrifice is forbidden in Kali Yuga, and the whole purpose of it is to rejuvenate. It's not to kill it and eat it, and these things are forbidden. Anyway, Jankazi became convinced because he's an incarnation of Kamsa. So just a summary, basically that yajna is not just a sacrifice. Yajna means, is very broad. It means worshipping the deity. It means preaching. It means reading scripture. It means giving donation according to one's capacity to the Krishna consciousness movement. It's very broad. So one senior devotee said to me that even a mother looking after her child, if she's a devotee, and she's looking after a child to raise him as a devotee, that's also part of the Sankirtan movement. That's also Sankirtan Yajna. So one can make serious advancement. And just by performing Sankirtan, all our needs will be met. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it talks about Shraddha, pure faith. And so one needs to have pure faith that just by practicing the Sankirtan Yajna, all of one's needs, will be looked after. Food, clothes. It may not be opulent, it may be very simple, but our basic needs will be looked after. So, so we can cultivate, so Prabhupada encourages us to cultivate this type of faith, pure faith, Shraddha. Then we'll be able to appreciate and fulfill the principle of Yajna as Prabhupada wanted us to. So, okay, I'll stop here. We've got 5 minutes. Does anyone have any comments? Anyone have any questions? Would anyone like to add anything? Any corrections?